and welcome to day 90 of Dungeon23. Today is the last day of the month, which means that it is the last room of the month. Tomorrow we're going to be going on to level 4, but that is going to be something we deal with tomorrow. Now today is a bit special because I'm recording this audio after I built the dungeon and had everything move around. And that's because I want this to be also a bit of an update. I have a few things I want to talk about relating to the channel as a whole as opposed to just specifically Dungeon23. And that is that there is going to be a kind of major change, and there is also going to be 3 projects I'm going to be working on, and 2 of those projects are dependent on the major change. And that major change is that I'm going to be looking into getting different kinds of editing software. I'm not going to really change the format of Dungeon23, but that new editing software will hopefully make everything just go by smoother and quicker. Although, once I get it, I imagine it's going to take a bit of a time to get accustomed to how it functions and operates. So that may affect some things, although I'm still going to release these at the same time every day, as I have been for the past year. Now, the first project that's going to come out of the new editing software is going to be related to D&D, and that is going to be a reaction slash rant slash reply to a video that was uploaded a very long time ago, about 3 years ago, by a YouTuber. I forget his name on the top of my head, but I know the video. And it's basically how to play in this one anime character in D&D, and the video is absolutely atrocious to the point where it's as if the guy isn't even talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Everything's so kind of out of the way and just weird and homebrewed and missing the point and just fundamentally not understanding how the game works that it kind of demands a reaction, and that probably was the point, but I don't know, I want to make a full dissection of why it doesn't work. And that may take a bit, I'm not entirely sure. It shouldn't take too long. Again, it's all depending on how quickly I learn the software. I have been writing up a script, and it is coming along nicely. It's just, I have no ETA on that. I did kind of glance over it right here, but I did put a secret room up there, and that is going to be a little secret room that has a lever that basically resets the gems. I'm going to put like 2 skeletons in there later. And then I finished off that little corner there, and we're going to put a chest there. And right now I'm just making the exit, the little exit door. Now the second project I'm going to be working on is basically entirely unrelated to Dungeons and Dragons. It was a big fad a few years ago to basically make these videos called childhood trauma, and it wouldn't actually talk about like serious stuff. It was almost exclusively just weird and wacky, and I do put a door right there. Just weird and wacky and gross and unnerving stuff from cartoons. And I want to make that for basically some things that kind of weirded me out in things I watched when I was a kid. Like an example is that creepy doll thing from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Basically that entire show, which I think is kind of cheating because it's made to be creepy. Now, that is kind of a bit more sketchy because I want to get some input from some friends and kind of talk to some people, maybe even record an interview. Kind of an interview. Just talk to my friends, maybe get some recordings, and then get clips together, and then learn the editing software so I can put everything together. I also want to get a good camera because I want to be like in the video. I want it to be like me presenting the thing. And if you saw my little thing about not getting out of the ghetto, that little bit, or the thing on 1D&D, my phone camera sucks. So I need to actually get a legitimate camera to film things. I also want to maybe get a green screen, and that should be pretty cheap. They're pretty cheap online. It's just like a piece of cloth. It's not expensive. So that basically deep dive into weird, spooky, creepy things from childhood media is going to be my second project. Now, the third thing, which is unrelated to the first two, because it's not just me doing it, I'm going to be rebooting my old podcast. Now, you may not have realized I had an old podcast, and that's because I kind of took most of the videos down. I kind of hid them because just language, poor quality, not very funny. Well, there was some funny bits, but just overall, it was pretty shoddy, and I just want to have a reboot, so it's nicer. I actually did record a pilot with another friend, which you could probably find on a channel. It should be under the Vapid Discussion Podcast channel, which should be in Frequent Collaborators. Collaborators. Jesus. Yeah, it's gonna be there. And we're gonna do a reboot. I haven't figured out exactly how it's gonna work. The buddy I'm doing it with, we're gonna do it in his like little studio he's setting up. And we have a few ideas for bits. One bit about conspiracy theories. It's primarily going to be the whole topic of we each bring in like a question and then we decide like the answer. It's kind of weird to explain because if you just want to get an idea, maybe watch that old pilot or just wait for it to come out and you'll get it. Just know that it's like heavily inspired by the old Monkey Jones and Digibro podcast called The Insufferable Social Media Argument, the podcast, which is a very annoying name, but it's defunct. You can barely find it online anymore, so listen to it if you want. Which in turn is inspired by like the Dick Show and The Biggest Problem in the Universe, the original one, not the reboot. Although the podcast we're making is gonna be inspired by the latest one. Although my co-host doesn't watch any of that, so it's really funny. But that's our third project. Now there is another project me and him are going to be working on, or him and I. Yeah, him and I are going to be working on. And before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with this door. The way this door works is that it has a high DC and some high health, and it's locked until, all of the gems are returned. But there's that weird quirk where if some of the gems are taken out, then they can be put back, and they'll still be open, and it regains HP on Initiative 20 as like a layer action. And that's because the party should be able to kind of break it down, but it does re-heal itself unless someone casts a spell magic on it. So there's a way around the whole thing, but it's not going to be super apparent. Now for this secret room, I gave it a DC of I believe 18 or 16 there, and it's just going to have a lever and two skeletons in it. And the way that works is there's a lever, you flip it, and all the gems, wherever they are, go back to where they are, unless they were given to the rat, because the rat is going to be relevant later. Now, the fourth project we're going to be working on, which I said there was only three, but there's four, and that is going to be a show that we kind of did a while ago, like a long while ago, maybe like, I think we were still in high school at the time, so it was a while ago, like 4 or 5 years, and it's a pizza review show. And actually, before I get into that, I want to talk about this little chest here. He's locked behind a barrier, obviously, the one that encompasses this whole area. And it just contains very basic things. Well, not basic things. It contains like 1d4 silver goblets, which are worth some gold. It contains a bottle of wine, which is pretty good. And it also contains a piece of cheese, like a wheel of cheese. And it's just a fun little goofy reward that has some money to it, but also is just like a cool little thing to find. And also it is unlocked because it's clearly behind a barrier anyway. But yeah, speaking of cheese, our show idea, we did like one pilot episode a while ago. I believe it was called Pizza Time or Pizza Town. I don't even know, which it goes to show how long ago it was. And the idea was that we live in a town that has a lot of pizza places. And the show is just us comparing two pizza places. It's pretty basic, although if you watch that video on his channel, which, I mean, just go under frequent collaborators, go under frequent collaborators, and just scroll down through his videos. Senior Caribou, just scroll down until you see Pizza Time or Pizza Town, whatever we decided to call it. And it was just him, our buddy, and I were in it, and we just reviewed a pizza. And our like second go at it, our second reboot, kind of, or not first reboot, our second go at it is going to be just a bit longer, a bit more analytical instead of just it's going to be us screwing around primarily, but also a little bit of maybe I don't know about history, but we're going to talk about the actual restaurant a bit more because I don't even think we talked about the restaurants in the original pilot. We just kind of like said, oh, here's Blimblar's and here's Melvin's, and then these are the two restaurants, and then we just drank Red Bull and complained about how Red Bull tastes like crap. So that's kind of on the back burner, although it's super easy to make. So whether or not or when that comes out is kind of, again, up in the air. All of this is really up in the air, although because he's going to be editing that and I'm just appearing on it, going to be hosted on his channel. So go watch it there. Again, go to frequent collaborators and watch Senior Caribou. That's where it'll appear when it appears eventually. And that is basically everything for our update. Well, I guess there's a few other things I could talk about while I still have some time. Obviously, one of the better things on my channel that gets views is the AI voice thing. I do have ready to go voices for the presidents and still Big Author, and it's very tricky to make those because the Dagoth ones, I have to something has to happen and I have to think of something really fun or clever. I just really have any ideas to do with that, and I do have ideas for presidents doing wacky things. The problem is it's kind of annoying to write for them because it's the same few jokes over and over, or you worry about them not sounding like the characterization of who they are, and it just feels like a waste. I mean, it'll probably get views, or more accurately, it'll get more views on TikTok when someone steals it and uploads to TikTok because that's how it is. Although that ban, which isn't really a TikTok ban, it's more of a we could just destroy the internet whenever we want to ban. Or not a ban on that, it's actively encouraging it. That TikTok bill is just going to destroy the internet, badly. But it's gonna pass and everything's gonna suck because that's how it works, but oh well. Oh, also, I just remembered this, but another thing I wanted to do once I get a good camera, a good green screen, a good editing software, once I get all my tech stuff handled, another thing I wanted to do was basically a review of a webcomic. And that webcomic is 5 years later, or 5YL. And what it is a fanfiction webcomic for Ben 10 and Danny Phantom, set 5 years later, obviously. And it's made by a company, or YouTube group called the Ink Tank, and I like a lot of what they do, but I have a lot of mixed feelings about this thing they made, this web comic, and I just don't really know how I feel about it, but I do want to make a video talking about it, because I feel like that's the only way I'm going to find a way to kind of organize my thoughts and then go through and discover my opinions on this, because I don't think it's bad, but it does seem to have a lot of problems, and it's weird, especially considering the fact that I kinda don't really like Danny Phantom, but I really, really, really like Ben 10. It's the only thing that I watched when I was younger that I've kind of maintained an interest in, even though I'm not watching that goddamn reboot. Anyway, that's basically the last project, unless I think of any more. Yeah, that's basically gonna be it for this update. Just a handful of projects, at least 5 or 6, even though I said it was only supposed to be 3. The video's basically done, it's just me filling in the black void and messing around. So, I'm just gonna end it here with a fade out. So, thanks for watching and or listening, and I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to improve.